This video demonstrates how to use the OGR Info utility to interact with a downloaded vector dataset to determine information about that dataset. The starting point for this demonstration is at the command prompt on the class server and assumes that you have already logged into the class server using either PuTTY or the Macintosh terminal program. As you can see, I am at the command prompt for my home directory on the class server, and if I do an ls, you can see that I have two directories inside my home directory, one called data and the second being the public_HTML directory. I have previously transferred a number of downloaded files from my home computer into the data directory. If we change into that directory using the cd command and do an ls, we can see that I have three files in that directory. One ecw.zip file, one tiff.gz file, and one shp.zip file. The vector data set that I'm interested in working with is the shp or shape file that I downloaded from the New Mexico ARGIS system. All of the files from New Mexico ARGIS are zipped using the zip algorithm to compress them and package them for delivery to downloading systems. So the first step in being able to work with this data set consists of unzipping the downloaded file. And I can do that using the unzip utility that I have previously enabled on the class server. The command for decompressing that .zip archive is just unzip and the name of the file. Hit return, and you can see that it has now inflated the contents of that zip archive into a folder. And we can confirm that by doing an ls command, and we see now that there is a new folder that has been created in that directory called 107046. That is the folder that contains all of the component files for the shape file. If I change into that directory with the cd command, cd space 107046, and do an ls, we can see the components of the shape file that are in that directory. To examine the contents of the shapefile, we can use the OGR Info command. The OGR Info command applies only to vector datasets, not to raster datasets. If you ever want to know what specific vector data formats are supported by the OGR command or the OGR library that is installed on your computer, you can type in OGR Info space -- formats. This is the command that will prompt it to display on the screen all of the supported formats and the method of support for those formats. So if I hit enter here, we can see a listing of the different formats that are supported by the installation of OGR on this system. You can see at the top of the list is the Esri shapefile, which is the type of file that I've downloaded from New Mexico ARGIS. You can see next to each of the file types, you can also see whether it's supported for read and write or read only. That's important as you might want to use other OGR utilities for being able to do transformation or conversion from one format to another. But now that we've confirmed that the version of OGR on this system supports the Esri shapefile, we can now proceed with using OGR Info to get information about that shapefile. So just again to remind myself of what the name of the file is, I can do ls. And to do the OGR Info, I want to execute the command pointing at the .shp file that is a part of the shapefile. That is sort of the core of the shapefile format. And I can do my OGR info as really a two-step process. The first step will tell me what all of the component layers are of the vector data set that we're working with. Then once I know the name of the layer that I would like more detailed information about, I can add that to the OGR info command and get the information specific to that layer. So if I do OGR info and the name of the file, and again this is the name of the file that ends in .shp, as a part of the output I see a listing of the layers in this particular data set. Most shape files will actually contain only one layer, and we want to actually look at this layer name highlighted here as the name that we want to add to our OGR info command to view the information about that layer. If you enter OGR info without any additional options, I actually get not only the information about the layer as a whole, but I actually get all of the data that are within the layer as well, which is not typically the outcome that you would like. In order to see only the information about the layer, we want to execute the command with the summary only option. So if we bring the command back that I just typed in, but actually add -so after the OGR info command and before the shapefile name, that specifies that I would actually like the summary only of the information generated by the command. And I can hit return now, and I then see only the summary information about the data set, including the specific format that the OGR info determined the file was, the name of the layer, the type of geometry, the number of features, the spatial extent of the data set as defined by 2 points, one at the lower left corner of a bounding box that contains the data set, the upper representing an upper right corner of the bounding box, where the coordinates are presented in longitude and latitude order, a block of text here that represents the spatial reference system well-known text representation. That's what SRS and WKT stand for. And we can see here that this data set is in the geographic coordinate system based on the WGS 1984 datum. And then we see here the set of attributes that are a part of this data set. So this is much of the information you would need to be able to access this data set in a geographic information system. So you can repeat this process with any number of vector data sets that are supported by the OGR that is installed on the class server or in the version of OGR that you have installed on your local computer.